Welcome to my other show. This is Muse, and I am Susan Rushton, and this is the show on which I'm privileged to, I'm allowed to, I am delighted to talk to people who have been visited or haunted or work with the Muse, a Muse. That's why I call it Muse. My guest today is a person I highly respect and greatly admire. This is Wayland Whitney. Wayland Whitney of the Auburn Symphony. And before we go any further, I need to please let you know the Auburn Symphony website, auburnsymphony.com. That was simple. If you are not familiar with it, please investigate. If you are familiar and haven't, and don't know much about them, please investigate. The third concert is coming up soon in April?
March 16th and
March
17th.
16th, 2018.
16th and 17th.
16th and 17th, 2018 at the Placer High Auditorium. Oh, please come. Please investigate. AuburnSymphony.com. The address for the office is 985 Lincoln Way in Auburn. That's in the State Theater building, and their phone number is 530-823-6683. You'll thank me. Okay, so this is Wayland Whitney. Wayland, you play the viola. And one of the primary reasons I'm having you, on here is that I saw you at an assembly at Alta Vista School in Auburn with the Symphony Goes to School. What is Symphony Goes to School, sir?
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Susan.
You're welcome.
Symphony Goes to School is a program created now 19 years ago by some of the volunteers that work with the Auburn Symphony, and they wanted to go out and drum up interest for the family concert. And so they took a small group of musicians around to local schools to do a little assembly and just tell them something about the composer, about music, and just get these kids interested in understanding that they too could play music and see music in their own community.
Yeah.
Because so many of them don't have these music programs, you know, and things that they should.
Yeah.
So this year it was my turn at the helm.
You haven't done this before?
No, it was my very first year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You caught them. You caught them. You said, can you bug your parents? Can you bug your parents? Bug your parents about the upcoming family concert. Yes, you know how to bug your parents. Yes, yes. So you direct, you're the director of the music in the schools.
Right.
And in addition to your work with the Auburn Symphony, you are also conductor of the Music in the Mountains Youth Orchestra.
That's right, yes. I run a youth orchestra up in Grass Valley. It's under the Music in the Mountains umbrella, but we've got maybe 30 kids that play all sorts of different stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's an after-school program.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes. And so if you want to know more about Music in the Mountains, musicinthemountains.org, and the youth orchestra can be found by some hunting if you click on education on that website and go from there. And
we've got a concert coming up as well on March 22nd.
Okay, that's a Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday night. It's up in Nevada City at the Nevada Theater.
All right, that's 2018, and that's so that's not going to be your only concert this year, right?
No, we have another one on May 17th, I believe. Same
2018. So if you're seeing this in 2018, investigate. And that doesn't mean that in 2019 there won't be other there will.
I record the concerts and I put clips on YouTube. So
oh, cool!
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So why are you a musician, sir?
You know, I started very young, playing piano.
Even younger than he is.
I was probably about 8 years old.
Okay.
And I just remember languishing on the bench. I didn't have a great teacher, really. I was just sitting there not understanding.
Do I have to do? Oh,
Yeah. So,
do
but
I have to
finally,
practice?
exactly. Finally, it kind of clicked. And then I took up violin and got rid of that after just a year and switched to viola, which is far superior. And I just
the instrument that you like.
well, you remember on those kids' concerts, I told them
Yes.
that viola was the greatest instrument, the culmination of all of our Western civilization. It was too early for them, I think, to think that was funny. But
Oh, the grown-ups laugh.
the grown-ups laughed. So I studied viola through high school. I was in youth orchestra and things like that. And by the time I went to college, I had actually kind of given up on music. I went to Sierra College and I started studying history, and I was thinking that would be my lot in life, would just be, you know, a historian or a writer, things like that. But I just kept coming back to music. I kept getting gigs. I kept picking up students. It just became more and more of my life.
In spite of yourself.
Yes. So I couldn't not do it.
Okay. Why? What's the big deal about the viola?
Well, can I show you?
Why? Why? Sure.
Okay, good. I just happen to have it right here.
Okay.
So the viola is an instrument that has problems. Okay. It doesn't look like it. It looks very pretty, yeah.
Yes.
But for the range that it is, it's much too small. You know, we're used to the idea of at the lower an instrument goes, the bigger it gets. So string bass, you know, would touch the ceiling.
Yes.
A piccolo is this big.
Yeah.
So viola, it fits kind of right between the violin and the cello, and it kind of
Okay.
brings those two together. If you're thinking of a piano, the cello would be kind of the whole left hand, the left
Oh,
side of
right.
the piano. The violin would be the whole right side, but it sounds kind of thin if they don't have something in between. So the viola is
the in-between.
yeah, it's a tiny cello. So it's the same strings as a cello, but one octave up.
Okay.
And then it actually shares 3 of the exact same strings as a violin. A violin is strung G, D, A, and then it has an E string.
Okay.
And the viola gets rid of that pesky E string, and it adds on a C string. So it's very close. But if it was the right size for maximum projection and volume, it would be about 20 inches. This is 16 and a half,
Okay.
which is already too big for most people. So because it is not the right size, because the human arm is only so long, it's always quiet. It's too quiet. It's kind of has a meek sound. It has sort of we violas always feel put upon. The viola section in the orchestra can never play loud enough. It's kind of like this, you know. So it attracts the self-flagellators. It attracts those of us.
There are
that,
lots of viola jokes.
there are.
Yeah.
They're kind of the Polish jokes of,
Yeah.
of the orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how you get 2 violas to play in tune?
How?
You shoot one. Anyway.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway,
That's only one viola joke. There are many others.
but it's an instrument that has really only come into its own as a solo instrument in the 20th century. And so a lot of composers are taking it as a challenge to write for the viola.
Oh,
So there's
good.
lots of new music for it. There's that sort of...
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so it kind of just draws the people who think a violin is too mainstream.
Oh, it's only a violin. Okay, so now that since you have your, you've told us a little bit about your viola, let's hear it.
Oh, sure.
Just noodle around.
Well, here. Good to tune first, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to play something for you. This is, you know, because viola has only been recently given its own repertoire, we steal from all the other instruments. So we play violin things a fifth down, we play cello things an octave up. So this is a cello piece. This is Bach's second suite, just the beginning. And it's very conversational and very sad. So I think the beginning here, to me, it's like a question.
Okay.
Like it's like a why. Yeah, so you see how he keeps coming back to this bum bum. This is why. And Bach actually wrote that after the death of his wife, his first wife. But he didn't know about it until he was out kind of traveling, touring for almost a year, and this is.
That was his job.
It was the 1700s, and there were no texts or anything, no APB. Yeah. So he comes home and finds out his wife has died.
Yeah.
This is really tragic. So to contrast that, I have a piece for you that's much later, 19 teens, by a female composer, Rebecca Clark.
Okay.
And the whole piece is sort of about declaring, yourself to be worthy and an artist and powerful, but then also kind of being afraid to fully commit. It's about kind of self-doubt, and it's about that fear of drawing attention to yourself, even though you know you deserve it. So here's the beginning.
I understand.
Goes on and on and on. I'll be doing that at a recital in May.
Excellent.
Here in Auburn.
May 2018. Where
Yes.
in Auburn?
I'm working to have it at Pioneer Methodist.
Okay.
Dates?
Pioneer Methodist Church on Lincoln Way?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. You appear to have found the humanity behind the music. Yeah, your face changes when you talk about the people and the humanity and the story behind the music. That's lovely. Lovely.
I think it's so important. We're at a time where people feel a greater distance than ever from classical music. They don't feel that relatability, and we need to talk about that.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, would you pick up your instrument again?
Sure.
I won't need the bow. Well, we don't
have it.
I have it. You're right. Does the violin have these ways of tuning?
Yeah, all of the tuning can be done up here with the pegs, but this is kind of the ultimate solution. It tunes a lot with a little motion. These are the fine tuners, and these they just turn it a little bit.
Yeah.
Most people, it's kind of a machismo thing. They don't have fine tuners. They just use these, but I teach a lot, and with my students, I want to match pitch, and so it requires little adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay. You know.
Okay. When you say you teach, where do you teach?
I teach private viola students. I've got a little gaggle of them. I teach piano, and I also teach at a school up in Grass Valley. I'm a music specialist for Waldorf Steiner School.
Why? Why are you a teacher of music?
I mean, it's a way to make a living.
That's
as a musician,
one reason.
as a musician, but I really love it. I try to be the teacher that I wish I had had when I was that age. I think so many people that get into that profession it's after they become parents, and they have maybe forgotten what it's like to be a kid, and how I still remember what it was like when I was a kid and when I was learning in school and being kind of patronized and talked down to and that sort of thing, when really, even as a 10-year-old, I think you have the intellectual capacity to discuss and understand, and so and I guess I just wanted to be someone who understood that and could give them, a real experience rather than a,
Okay.
parenting type of educational experience.
Yeah. All right. So, you think the viola is the end-all, be-all and end-all?
Well, I'm being facetious.
Well, no, you're not.
I guess I do.
How did you discover the viola?
You know what? I remember it was my fourth grade music teacher, Miss Roberts Hayden. She said to us one day after school, it's funny how things just stick in your head as kids. She said, and if you have long fingers, you might consider picking up the viola. And here I was in fourth grade, and I kind of just self-diagnosed, and I thought,
I have long fingers.
Yeah, I'll do it. And I just switched, and there you go.
And what did you know immediately?
Well,
or did you?
I did not.
Okay. All right.
As a violist, it's a real pain in the butt for music teachers to have a violist in the class, because all the treble instruments, the upper instruments read off of the treble clef, which we all know as the swirly and the curly Q1, and all the bass instruments, the lower instruments, read off of the bass clef. Except the viola, being in between, has its own clef, the alto clef.
Wow.
And so theoretically, it's transposed one up from it's one note down from treble clef plus an octave, or it's one note up from the bass clef plus an octave. So you could play one of those parts, but you'd have to go in and rewrite the whole thing. So I think maybe I was just looking to be exceptional and be the salmon going against the whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Why do you think music is important? Maybe you don't.
Oh, I very much do. I think it's the most important. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that. I think music is one of the arts. I think they all work together. But of all of our arts, painting, poetry, literature, dance, everything, music is by far the most abstract. It can really be interpreted a myriad of different ways, and actually it becomes more relevant in different ways for different times. I think a perfect example is like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. It meant so much at the time. It meant one thing, and then look at how it was adopted in World War II to mean this. And same thing with the Ode to Joy.
The Fifth Symphony, that's da 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 da.
Very good. You paid attention in school. Yeah. Or like the Ninth Symphony is maybe a better example. The Ode to Joy, that's taken on such extra meaning than what is just what's written.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we're so lucky to live in a country that doesn't have too many existential threats. We really can go and live our lives without fear of a lot of things, compared to places like, Stalinist USSR. And so if you look at these places that really suffered actual repression and actual difficulty, music was one of the avenues that they could, still exchange ideas and still feel things because it's so abstract. So I guess that's why I chose music, is because it's so up to interpretation. I don't know. I'm drawn to that.
Okay. So you perform at in the Auburn Symphony. You're performing with a smaller group at Pioneer United 2018, and that's May. May.
It'll just be me, solo recital.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you perform with anybody else?
Yes, I have a local quartet, the Mercenacta quartet, that plays. I'm a sub for them. I don't do anything. I'm not administrative or anything. But I sub with them around, and we play weddings and gigs like that. I played in. I've subbed with Sackville whenever the Sacramento Philharmonic, whenever they need another viola. I played in Folsom for a long time.
Folsom
Symphony.
Symphony. You don't do that anymore?
No, no more. No time.
Yeah.
Music in the Mountains has an orchestra they convene for,
And you
special
play for
events.
them?
Yeah, when I can.
Okay.
And then I also assistant conduct the Rancho Cordova Civic Light Orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah, with Pete now.
No wonder, no time. You do
Yes.
that and you teach. And before we got started, our studio tech is Deborah Olszewski,
Right.
the Deborah Olszewski, who volunteers at the State Theater. And you said, "Oh, I know you."
Yes,
and
yes.
because you play for various.
Well, no, for the State Theater Acting Company, I also music directed their production of Annie last November 2017.
Okay. So how many instruments did that? I beg your pardon, I didn't see it, but
Well, you missed out. It was good.
Yes.
It was just a pit orchestra, so a couple reeds, bass, trombone, tuba, trumpet, violin, cello, piano.
Now have you done that before?
That was my first time directing musical theater.
Are you going to do it again?
I would love to. It's very high stakes. See, in an orchestra, we rehearse and we rehearse and we rehearse. So this is kind of the secret about conducting, is if you mess up, you drop a beat, you cue someone in wrong, the car, it can still, everything goes fine. It still drives. It plays itself, all this music. In theater, I have my libretto here. I'm reading where they are in the text, and I'm comparing that to my music. How many bars until we're done, and how do we go back and repeat because they're going slow, or do we have to hurry up and play quicker because they're done with their text and now she needs to sing, and it's different every night. It was very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for performers, for musicians who perform?
Well, I think everybody has to find their own way in a career in music. For me, it's been one of hybridizing all of these different jobs together. I teach and I conduct and I do this and that and that. So that would be my advice to maybe up-and-comers. I wouldn't presume to give advice to established musicians. But for anyone kind of entering the field, diversify your skills so that you can do anything. Don't just pigeonhole yourself as I only do whatever, one thing.
Okay. Okay.
And then also just take every gig, take every opportunity. I've played so many shows for free, in so many orchestras for free, or even worse, for like a $100 stipend.
Is that even worse?
Well, see, when you play for free, they have to be nice to you, and when you're the hired hands,
Okay.
So I've made so many wonderful connections and wonderful friends that years later it's turned into a paying gig, or it's turned into this other exciting opportunity. So I think it's important to understand you have a skill and then decide to share it, even if you're not being compensated.
Okay. Okay. How did you get involved with the Auburn Symphony?
Let's see. When I was 18, I started a youth orchestra in Rockland area with my former teacher, Margie Hartung. She still plays in the Auburn Symphony.
Yeah.
And we, I think that orchestra, I've since left, but I think it's in its 9th season. So it's still going strong. And I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question was, how did you get involved in this? With
Right.
With this,
Well, it was
Auburn Symphony.
after a few years of she and I working and playing together, we developed a relationship with Michael Goodwin, the former conductor of the Auburn Symphony, and had our youth orchestra come and open the popular park concert, you know, that occurs every September.
Yes.
And from there, he asked us to join the orchestra, and I had one rehearsal with him, and then the very next rehearsal was where he, unfortunately, his car went off the road and he passed away.
Yeah.
But that's how we got into the Auburn Symphony.
Okay.
That's how I got into it.
Yeah. What is the difference between rehearsing and performing in front of an audience?
Well, in a performance, you don't stop, hopefully. I did hear an anecdote just the other night of a conductor who was playing Mahler 5, and for the symphony, University Symphony Orchestra, and right at the very beginning, the cymbal, like with those crash cymbals, the strap broke, and the cymbal fell on the ground, and kind of rolled around, wow, 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 and he didn't stop. And this is in the first 5 measures of the performance. He didn't stop and restart. So in a rehearsal, you stop and start and all those sort of things. But also in a rehearsal, I don't know. For me, my heart's just not in it. I'm not living it as much because you're kind of marking. You're not playing full. In a performance, you get really taken away with the pacing, just what the shape of the work that you're always kind of just, looking at.
Putting it beforehand, you're putting, okay, I can do this. I'll do.
It's under the microscope. And then when you're performing, you kind of don't care. Well, I did that bowing wrong. I played that as a sharp when it was not supposed to be. It's whatever. You have to move on and then you're receiving all of this energy from the audience sitting there. It's a tremendous amount of man hours that, if you go and see a symphony, you're seeing maybe 80, 100 people. Imagine how many years all of them has studied their individual instrument, and imagine how much just time they've spent on this set alone, how many minutes. And then imagine all of those, all of our kind of collective seconds clicking by. When 1 second clicks by, it's not just one, it's 80 seconds. So it's like all these minutes are happening in every second, and then you combine that with the audience. You have an audience of 300, then it's 300, well, or hopefully more than that. You have an audience of 300, and all of those seconds are clicking by. So it's just suddenly this time is so valuable that we have together. It's worth so much more.
What a wonderful way of looking at it. Wow. You say there's a difference in performing or rehearsing and playing for an audience.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear them?
Yes, you don't really. Hopefully, you don't hear the audience. Sometimes people. I watched I heard about a performance of Stravinsky's Firebird out in Reading, where there's the beautiful berceuse, which is a lullaby, and it calms down, and then boom, you have the beginning of the Dance Infernal, and so luckily they got this on video. Right at the beginning, the heart attack moment, a woman screams in the audience.
Okay, yes. Wayland, it's been lovely talking with you.
It's been lovely, Susan. Thank you.
Good, yes. Auburn Symphony, auburnsymphony.com. My host is my guest. I'm the host. My guest has been Wayland Whitney, who plays viola. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again.